All right, everybody. I want you to raise your hand if you thought at any point in this series the Montreal Canadiens would be leading it. Okay. All right. I
thought
said
it was
Leafs.
possible.
That's fine.
That's fine. I predicted the Leafs in 5. It's not looking so good right now.
Yeah. Well, so did
I.
It made sense, but it was the kind of season that they had. Nobody knew. You just did not know. Everybody said they knew, but they didn't. You know.
Jack Todd is already ready. Let's just get into game one. Welcome to Hockey Inside Out. Julian McKenzie right back at it for a playoff edition of Hockey Inside Out. Some of our usual suspects are here. Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette, Rick Green, formerly of the Montreal Canadiens, and tapping in for Jessica Rusnak. She's going to be back, people. Don't worry about that. Jack Todd, columnist for the Montreal Gazette, filling in for Jess. Jack, thank you so much for filling in for Jess. We really appreciate it.
Big shoes to fill, but
yes, very much big shoes to fill. Let's get into game one of the first round series between the Canadiens and the Leafs. So many people picked the Leafs to win, but after the first night of the series, it's the Montreal Canadiens who have a series lead, a 2-1 victory in game one. We'll get into the big and unfortunate injury that took place with John Tavares later on, but I want to talk about the game-winning goal that was scored by Paul Byron in the third period, a short-handed marker. Remember, the Canadiens were really good at playing short-handed, and they get their game-winning goal to open the series, courtesy of an amazing goal by Paul Byron. The first question I want to ask you guys is, where does Paul Byron's game one winner rank among some of the great Montreal Canadiens playoff goals?
I was thinking about this, and when he scored, the goal that sort of popped up in my mind, some of our viewers are probably too young to remember this, but it was Pete Mahovlich in the 72 Summit Series, just because of the effort. If you remember that goal, people who can Google it or YouTube it and you see it, just the effort Mahovlich had splitting the defense and fighting through and battling to score the goal. And that was Paul Byron. I mean, falls to his knees, is able, while sliding to his knees, to get the puck from backhand to forehand, chip it over. That was a goal that popped into my mind. I'm sure there's other ones that fans will remember apart from that. It wasn't with the Canadiens, it was with Team Canada, but that's a goal that came into my mind that I was really happy for Paul Byron. Here's a guy, placed on waivers 3 times this year, the unwanted man for the Canadiens all season. The Canadiens kept maintaining it was a salary cap move, but I'm sure they would have not minded if somebody had taken Byron's contract off their hands. And if anyone who's dealt with Byron and knows him, he's a class act. And I was really happy to see him rewarded after everything he's gone through this season.
Yeah, I agree with you, Stu. He's a quality guy, and he's very much motivated right now. And what you see in his penalty killing abilities is a classic example again of last night of his tenacity and his speed that he brings in any kind of foot race. And he makes the opposition, be on guard, and he made one hell of a play, obviously, to put that puck away. But he's very much motivated, a good kid, and he wants to show that he can contribute still to the Montreal Canadiens. And compliments to him and his effort last night.
It reminded me. Sorry, it isn't a Habs thing, but it was against Toronto, a game I was covering in Toronto. And against Vancouver, and Pavel Bure, the puck popped loose in the slot, and nobody was within 5 feet of it. And there was just a second, everything was frozen. And then Bure put on the Jets, and a 15-foot burst and a shot, and boom, it's in the net. And the burst that he put on last night, that Byron put on to get clear, was like Bure's. You look where he was when he got the puck, and where he ended up, it looks impossible. He made up so much ground in so little space. And then the tenacity reminded me, remember the Ovechkin rollover goal?
Yeah.
Well, Red always said he thought that was the greatest goal in the history of hockey. And it may still be, but it reminded me of that, the tenacity. You're down, you're falling, and you still keep your eye on the puck, and you manage to beat the goalie. Amazing. Great goal.
If the Canadiens go out to win this series, we'll be seeing replays of that goal for years and years and years to come. I mean, the Canadiens' power play did everything in its power to lose that game. I mean, how many puck over glass penalties? I tweeted, I thought the Leafs were just taunting the Canadiens' power play. Let's shoot it over the glass again and let the Habs have another brutal power play. But, Byron, shorthanded, what an effort. And that's what Paul Byron is. after the game, I asked Josh Anderson how to describe Paul Byron, and the word he used was commitment. And I think it's the perfect word to describe Paul Byron.
Somebody said last night that the Canadiens have a power kill and a penalty play.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But I mean, the Leafs power play is just as bad. And when you look at the talent in the Leafs, like, how is that possible with Marner and Matthews and all these guys that their power play is just as bad as the Canadiens?
Yeah, choked up last night, big time.
Yeah, and you love to watch Toronto the way they enter the zone and move the puck around, but they weren't a huge threat similar to the Canadiens.
Watching the Canadiens power play, I kept wondering, I wonder if Cole Caufield could help that power play a little bit, but that's another topic.
It is actually another topic. Thanks for alluding to what we will also talk about a little later on. You guys are pretty good so far to start off, all three of you. I want to talk about Carey Price. It seems as if some people may have been a bit surprised at how good Carey Price was playing in Game 1. I know one of you three thought Jake Allen probably should have started in Game 1. I'm not going to drop any names, but you can go back to last week's episode to see who that person was, Rick. Were you guys surprised to see Carey Price play well in Game 1 against the Leafs? I wasn't.
Well, I was a little surprised. I mean, he's been, out of the of game conditions for a while, and I was concerned about his health and just his overall well-being. But obviously his track record has shown in the past that when it comes to playoffs, he knows what he needs to do. And I think there's a classic example of seeing the way he performed with his timely saves, and everything seemed to be focused and under control. And he was quite determined to say, I'm going to give my team a chance to win, and I'll make those saves when I have to make them. And he looked quite poised and confident in his game. And, bottom line is, he seems to be in good shape and rested, and that's what you need with this type of grind in the playoffs. And he's shown before he's capable of stopping the puck, and if that's any indication moving forward, always liked him.
I thought it was going to be great when I saw the haircut. He looks like he got that haircut from a German barber on the Eastern Front in 1944. A terrible haircut, but you get when you're really pissed off, and he looked pissed. I thought in the crease, like before the game started, he looks mad. Like he's got something to prove, and look out. And it did. Ask Marner, that save, holy gods. That was 2015 Carey Price. He's on his way.
I won't comment on anybody's haircut. I don't think I should do that. But
I didn't make any hair jokes. I said I'm putting a moratorium on that for myself. So don't look at me.
I mean, I mentioned last week I thought they should start Price and have a short leash on him. Was I surprised a little bit because guy coming back from a concussion, you never know.
Yeah.
But this is a repeat of last year when we saw arrested Carey Price in the postseason and how well he played there. And at this point in Price's career, there's two Carey Prices. There's regular season Carey Price, who is so inconsistent, drives fans crazy, gets roasted on Twitter by Canadiens fans for letting in bad goals. And then there's playoff Carey Price.
Yeah.
The last two times the Canadiens were in the playoffs, he was outstanding. The series against the Rangers in 2017 and again last year. And the common denominator both times, his team couldn't score enough goals to help him out. And it was the same scenario last night. I don't know how many games the Canadiens are going to win scoring only 2 goals. But Carey Price is a money goalie. That's what he is now. During the regular season, it's up and down. The grind of the season, his body doesn't seem to be able to handle it. He has these lapses through. But when the playoffs start and when the money's on the line, he's still a money goalie.
Channeling Patrick.
And what else can I say other than the defense that are in front of him also allow him to play well. And they for the life of the game, the defense are, like I said, are the smart ones, and they're very critical to the success of the team. And they showed it, I think, last night in allowing Price. I remember Patrick Waugh, us as a group on defense said, just let him see the puck. He's going to stop it. Let's take care of the rebound. And I thought that, overall the D in front did a really good job in boxing guys out and smothering up any loose pucks that were laying around. And they got their sticks. And another area that I noticed was really effective to help Carey play well was they blocked a lot of shots. They got in a lot of the shooting lanes. And if anything, they forced the Leafs to use tough angle shots and not necessarily have as many good quality scoring chances as they normally did during the regular season.
As Jack mentioned earlier, that save on Marner, I mean, that was a grade A scoring chance. And what an amazing save by Price. That was a game-saving save, obviously, and maybe a series-saving change because the Canadiens had just blown another power play opportunity.
Yeah.
The Leafs pick up the momentum. If that goes in the net, we're all talking with a different vibe today, right? That's Habs lose, power play sucks, series is over, Leafs are going to sweep. All that stuff would be being talked about. But that one save changed everything. And then Paul Byron, of course, providing the winning goal later. But Byron doesn't have that opportunity to score the winning goal if Price lets that goal in. So that was, to me, that was the play. Byron's a hero of the game for that goal, but that was the play of the game.
The Marner save,
Yeah, I'll say this. I know we like to joke on Rick whenever he does big up the defense. That is his specialty. Rick is absolutely right. The defense deserves a ton of credit for how they played in game one of that series. I thought Carey Price played well, but I didn't think he had to go above himself to steal that game. And I think the defense played a very good part in that. I mean, Austin Matthews, I know he got himself some chances, but he ultimately didn't get a goal on net, right? It was William Nylander who had to kind of break away from the front of the net to get himself a pretty creative scoring chance to beat Carey Price. And it wasn't until that blocker save where Carey Price had to make an amazing save to keep his team in it. So the defense definitely deserves a lot of credit, but Carey Price, he did in fact play a solid game. And I'll move to this next question here, and you're allowed to use Carey Price for this answer. Which Canadiens player impressed you the most? Again, you can use Carey Price for this answer if you want. I have a different answer, but I'm very curious to hear what you guys will say.
Just one thing, though. I think we need to come out with HIO T-shirts with Rick's face saying "Never trust the forward" on it.
I'd buy one. I would buy one.
Never change.
Never change. So yeah, who's your? So let's answer the question.
Who's up?
I think it's you.
Go ahead, Jack.
Me?
I think it's you.
Easy, Josh Anderson. I thought he was the best player on the ice. He skates a ton. He hits. Everything. Lately, they haven't been going in for him. Like the way the guy's been playing, he should have finished the season with 25 goals. But it went in last night when it mattered the most. He could have had 3. But I'm really impressed with him. He's totally fearless. So much speed to go with the size. And they got him from Max Domi. Going to be hard to fire the GM who got Josh Anderson for Max Domi. Never mind the other mistakes in the past. Everybody's going to look at that and go, well,
In a roundabout way, they also got him for Galchenyuk.
Yeah, which is even more amazing.
Yeah, Anderson, I mean, he set the tone. The Canadiens had 28 hits in the first period, which was remarkable. But to pick somebody else, I mean, Shea Weber, I thought, here's a guy that's taken a lot of heat this season. He obviously was playing through that upper body injury, believed to be his hand. He was off for a long time, and he was physical. He looked like the Shea Weber that Canadiens fans and Marc Bergevin were hoping to see. And for a guy, 35 years old, off that much time, he tried to play through the injury. A lot of people might have criticized him for playing when he wasn't at 100%, but that's just Shea Weber. His teammates say he's a warrior, he's a battler, and I just thought that the way he played last night was pretty impressive, coming off a long break with a new defense partner in Merrill. Did a really good job of keeping Matthews to the outside. Matthews had 8 shots, but most of them were from not danger areas. So I tip my hat to Shea Weber for what he did last night.
Yeah.
I think there's a few players that deserve honorable mention, but like Jack said, I was really impressed in watching Josh Anderson perform and skate, get involved, and punish the Leafs, and really effective guy that seems to be a catalyst for the hockey team. And this guy brings amazing skill and opportunity to score. I mean, every time he plays, you see that he's generating something, or he's making somebody pay the price, because that's the key, I think, to keeping some of these skilled Leaf guys off guard, knowing that you got a big train like Josh Anderson coming through that's not going to swing by a check. And, he also has enough skill and talent that when he has the opportunity, he's going to generate something and score goals for them. So hats off to Josh Anderson for his great performance last night.
just to go back to Shea Weber for a second, I'm not a hockey coach and never qualified to coach in the NHL, but it might be an idea on the power play for the Canadiens to try something besides Shea Weber blasting it from the blue line. Just a thought.
You know what? That isn't just Shea Weber. It was P.K. Subban before that. They've been locked in on that play since at least 2012. It's 9 years now. And it had already stopped working when PK was getting the shot. What does it take, you know?
I mean, if we spot it, imagine an opposing coach looking at video of the Canadian power play. Okay, they're going to get it back to Weber for a shot. Here's what we're going to do.
Hey, I mean, hell of a shot, but.
And now playoff time, you also see the Leafs are getting in the shooting lane. Like, they're paying the price to take a Shea Weber shot, off the leg or whatever, off the body. But they know that that's his strong point. His record has shown that he scores on the power play from there. So it's going to be tough for them because the Leafs are going to, plug up that shooting lane for Shea Weber.
Did someone say Cole Caufield earlier?
Stu.
Smaller
if I
than
can,
Weber, is that the
Stu. If I can here, I'd like to put it an honorable mention, even if he might not have necessarily been the most impressive forward. I think Tyler Toffoli deserves a positive mention. One play that kind of sticks out to me, it was like in the middle of the second period when the Canadiens had some power play opportunities and they just could not escape the neutral zone. That Toffoli at one point just kind of took the puck for himself. And while he's not necessarily the fastest guy on the ice, he was able to make like a positive zone entry and got a shot on net. And I think after that, the Canadiens, for whatever reason, were just able to make it easy on themselves to penetrate into the offensive zone. Tyler Toffoli is a guy who we know he scored all those goals in the regular season, and he's able to create chances and create offense for this team. And while he did not score in game one, he's going to score at some point in this series. And he'll be more than an honorable mention. I think that's a pretty easy pick to say, but I think it's worth kind of shedding some praise, or at least throwing some praise in Tyler Toffoli's way.
I never get over the Ryder thing. Every time I look at him, I see Michael Ryder. And the funny thing is, Ryder was the quietest guy you've ever seen. Like, you couldn't get an interview. You couldn't get a quote out of him in 10 minutes. And so once I was frustrated after trying to do a feature on him, I called his dad in Newfoundland, who didn't shut up for an hour. So, okay, that's a talker, but Toffoli can talk for himself too. So.
Well, that Players Tribune story that Toffoli
really good.
I mean, if you haven't read it yet, people out there, Google it. It was fantastic, and he talked about how much he didn't really appreciate winning the cup with the Kings because he was so young, and how his whole determination now is he wants to win another Stanley Cup, and he played in Game 1 like a guy who really, really, really wants to win a Stanley Cup, and not only the offense he brings, but he was physical. He was determined. He played like Brendan Gallagher in a lot of ways. He wants to win a Stanley Cup, and he showed it in Game 1.
And he does bring that element that you don't see him for a while, and then next thing you know, boom, one opportunity, it's a goal, and it's just a matter of time before he finds the net and generates something for the rest of his teammates.
We have to address the unfortunate John Tavares injury that took place in the first period of Game 1. Pretty bad. Thankfully, we don't have to show replays of that because I think Sportsnet showed that way too many times for my liking. It was really unfortunate. We all hope he ends up getting better. I would be stunned if we saw John Tavares in the series. But I was very, not disgusted, but I was not a fan of the fight that had to take place after the fact between Corey Perry and Nick Foligno. You saw Nick Foligno after the fact saying, hey, look, I know it was an accident, but that's our captain on the ice. And Corey Perry, I mean, I know he's a guy who likes to get in dirty stuff, but he looked a little reluctant to me getting into that fight. What were your takeaways from Corey Perry and Nick Foligno scrapping it yesterday?
Well, let me start off by saying I grew up loving hockey fights. Now, I grew up in the Rock'em Sock'em world and the Broad Street Bullies and all that stuff, and I watched hockey fights and I liked hockey fights. But I think I've evolved over the years. I think the world has evolved over the years, and unfortunately, the NHL refuses to evolve. That was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Corey Perry said after the game he felt sick to his stomach. He's friends with John Tavares. you watch the replay, he was trying to get out of the way. I mean, he's skating back as fast as he can. A guy falls in front of him. He tried to jump over him, and he caught him with his knee in the head. It was horrific to watch. It was a total accident. And then Meathead Foligno comes out, the old school, the code and all this crap. And you can see him talking to Perry, and Perry's trying to explain to him, it was an accident. So Perry, following the code, he has to fight him, which he did, and he sort of just hung on, trying not to get hurt. And then, you hear the people who defend the code. Well, that settled it. Everything was over. Really? Well, then why was Simmons trying to fight Perry again in the second period? I hope the NHL has a prepared statement ready for when one of these code fights ends up with a player carried off on a stretcher like Tavares was, or heaven forbid, worse. I hope that Gary Bettman has a statement prepared to explain why they continue to allow this to happen. And why wasn't there an instigator penalty? Isn't the instigator penalty there to get rid of this crap? But the NHL, once it comes to the playoffs, the NHL is like the WWE. Just waiting for someone to pull out a foreign object and start beating somebody with it. And Gary Bettman would probably love that. It was a joke. It was disgusting. And it's not over. I'm sure they're still going to be going after Corey Perry for the rest of the season. And it's nuts.
It really looked bad. I mean, Corey Perry, as much as he disturbs the opposition, that was an accident. I mean, he didn't intentionally try and do that. He tried to avoid it. And then for Foligno to go out and, challenge, you saw it right off the face-off that they were going back and forth, like Stu said. And why didn't the referees jump in there? Why was Perry maybe still on the ice versus getting him off the ice till things kind of tempered down? But it's a bad image. Maybe in the old days that was the norm, right? That stuff went on all the time. But in today's game, they just carried a guy off the stretcher. Not to say that the fight could have brought something where one of the guys, broke his cheek or had something major go down, but it was really bad to see that stuff happen. And I was disappointed that the referees that had plenty of time to jump in there and say Corey Perry's not a type of guy that's a fighter. Didn't need to happen. And I hope the NHL does something to address that. And it just didn't look good.
It should never have been allowed to start, for sure. My comparison is the NBA. Like, if Anthony Davis gets knocked down in a game against the Warriors, Steph Curry's jumping over him, hits him in the head with his knee, and then he has to fight LeBron James. It wouldn't even occur to anyone, even in football. This is the only sport that would allow it. And it's going to lead to a horrendous injury someday for no reason at all.
Well, imagine if the fight, somebody loses his helmet and the fight falls down and smacks his head. Now you got another player being carried off on a stretcher.
Remember the George Peros fight?
Yeah.
I mean, that was an accident. He fell. But he got badly injured in exactly that situation. And he's a trained fighter.
He got so badly injured that he doesn't know how to rule on anything for safety. I think his brain got rattled on that one. But the NHL promotes violence. This is what they want. This is what Gary Bettman wants. I'm sure they loved it. Just like, with the Wilson thing when they had the big line brawl after he wasn't suspended. The NHL loves this crap. And they obviously think a lot of fans out there love it. But I really wonder how many do. As I said earlier, I grew up loving hockey fights. Now I think they're ridiculous. I understand the fight that happens in the heat of the moment. Two guys in front of the net whacking at each other, hacking each other, they drop the gloves. I understand that. I think that's going to be part of the game, always be part of the game. It's just the way guys are. They get fired up, they get angry, and it's a heat of the moment thing. But these other fights, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I think they're maybe losing more fans than they're gaining by allowing this to continue.
I think so. You know what I think they look at? They look at ESPN. And they say, look, it got us on ESPN. I saw so much on Wilson. I watch a lot of those afternoon ESPN talk shows. And that's one time they were talking NHL, and it was even leading the episodes. So they say, okay, this is what we want.
And how things have changed from, the regular season to now the playoffs. And the referee's standing right there going, okay, this is probably going to happen. And they did nothing.
Yeah.
They did nothing to stop it. Like said, okay, well, just go ahead, start beating on each other.
Yeah, As you mentioned, Jack, those afternoon talk shows with Wilbon and those guys, I watch them also. That's why they don't take the NHL seriously. That's why they think the NHL is like a joke league, and people say, Canadians say, who cares about the U.S.? Well, that's where the money is. That's where the TV money and everything else is. And it's just, as I said, I just hope Gary Bettman and his lawyers have a prepared statement ready to go to explain all this crap when somebody does get seriously injured, and it's going to happen one day, unfortunately. And then what are they going to do then?
Yeah, genuinely curious how ESPN will change its behaviors to the sport, knowing that they'll have broadcasting rights back for the NHL starting next season. Also, what really surprised me, at least I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter, but Matthew Barnaby, who literally made his career off being a fighter, even he thought the premeditated fight between Foligno and Perry was pretty dumb to see. And I was just I wasn't happy about that. Like, it was clearly –
You mentioned about the instigator. Did they throw out the instigator rule in playoffs? I guess so.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's nothing more blatant, obvious than that. Him going right to him. You can almost read his lips.
Yeah, and the worst
thing right there, and given both of them. Give Foligno a 10-minute misconduct, and even give Perry one if you want. Just get them both off the ice and stop this from happening. But I'm sure when the NHL meets with the referees before the playoffs, they want this stuff to happen. If the referees had broken it up, Gary Bettman would probably be on the phone today to the head of officiating saying, why did you guys break that up? We want that.
Yeah. And, on the other side, maybe they're looking at it put an end to the possibility of somebody going at Perry in other ways, cheap shot wise. Maybe they figure that this is the open and closing of what went down, and now let's play hockey. So tough to say, other than from an image standpoint, it wasn't one of the more prettier ones.
But I'll say it's not over. This is going to continue. Game 2, I guarantee you, somebody's going to take a run at Perry. Somebody's going to want to fight him again. So all this, we'll fight right now and get it over with, and it's all settled. It's not. It's not settled. This is going to continue throughout the series.
I'm really curious about that, because I'm inclined to agree a bit more with Rick, thinking that, I don't think Nick Foligno really wanted to do that fight either. I think he only did it because, it's our team captain. He's on the ground. Like, someone has to step up and do something. And if it's not going to be him, it is going to be Wayne Simmons. It is going to be somebody else for the Toronto Maple Leafs trying to get something on Corey Perry. I'd be very surprised if that continued into games 2 or even beyond, but that might also depend on how Corey Perry plays for the rest of this series as well. But it was a really unfortunate thing that happened, and it kind of broke up the flow of that game. Stu, you want to mention something else as well? That's fine.
Because it justifies his existence in the NHL, him and Simmons. That's why Toronto went out and got them. They went out and got them for stuff like that. And that's I'm sure he was chomping at the bit to go. Perry did everything he could. You could see them talking to explain, look, it was an accident. It was an accident. He's my friend. I didn't want to hurt him, but the Foligno in one ear, out the other ear, the code, I'm going to fight you now, and we saw what happened.
Yeah. If you enjoyed Stu Cowan on question 4, you are going to love him on this next one. Jake Evans, unfortunately, did not finish game 1 due to I don't believe the injury was disclosed at all, or the reason why he left the game. And Dominic Ducharme couldn't tell us when exactly he would be back. He's supposed to be getting evaluated, and we'll have to wait and see if he'll be available for the team in game 2. If he cannot go for the Montreal Canadiens in game 2, who should replace him in the lineup? Could it be Cole Caufield? Jesperi Kotkaniemi's also out there as well. Michael Frolik, too. There's no shortage of options for the Montreal Canadiens. Who do you think should step in for Jake Evans if he can't play in game 2?
Bring in the 2 kids, Kotkaniemi and Caufield. Let's go. Get them in there. Kotkaniemi has shown, in the other playoff series that he's capable of handling himself very well. Give the kid a chance. Caufield, we've seen what this kid brings. They need goals. This guy's going to generate stuff. He's a great player and a sniper that needs the opportunity. And I think that he's shown in the past that he loves the pressure situations, and I think he can handle himself very well. So those 2 guys, I'm all for bringing out somebody else. If Evans can't come in and fill with those two players to give some youth and excitement and obviously bring some results, I believe.
Yeah, I totally down with Caufield in any situation. What surprised me most about the kid, he came as advertised on the scoring front. It was how hard he worked everywhere else. He's in on the forecheck, he's back checking, he skates miles, and he's completely fearless. I see what the thinking was last night, because they wanted a heavy team and they wanted to hit. And that 55-27 edge in hits is, to me, is huge and why they won. But he's not afraid of hitting either, and changing one guy in the lineup isn't going to change your ability to hit, especially if the guy who comes out is Evans. And Caufield just causes so many problems. I mean, you know, I was a big basketball player in high school, and I hated those little bastards like that. You know, they run you into the ground. You can never quite catch up. He's going to drive them nuts, and they need goals, and the power play needs a boost badly. I think he's capable of providing it. Get him out there.
I saw a replay after game one, and it was Evans' second to last shift, and he got cross-checked pretty hard from behind in the ribs. So I'm figuring that probably had something to do with his injuries, since cross-checking is legal in the playoffs. But replacing Evans, I'm sure it's going to be Kotkaniemi who's going to replace Evans, because they're going to need a centerman. The physical play that the Canadiens played in game one, I think Ducharme can look at Kotkaniemi and say, see what we want, that's what we want you to do. And Kotkaniemi proved in the postseason last year that he could do that. Remember that hit that he got thrown out of the game for, which I thought was a legal hit. And Kotkaniemi, just tell Kotkaniemi, take the pressure off him. We don't want a ton of offense from you. If you can score, great. We want you to hit everything that moves. Yeah. I think Kotkaniemi can do that. So I think he replaces Evans. But I agree, they got to get Caufield in the lineup. Even if they spot him here and there, if they're not confident with him playing 5-on-5, just to get him out on the power play. Because that power play, it should have cost them the game. I mean, you know, after the Leafs took the after the Leafs had the power play, after the Canadiens failed to score on their fourth or fifth power play, I sort of tweeted, I said, the hockey gods, you wouldn't be surprised if the hockey gods reward the Leafs now and give them a power play goal just because of what had happened. And then it turned out that Byron scored shorthanded. But they got, whether it's taking out Armia or maybe taking out Lehkonen, they need a score. They're not going to, you know, Carey Price every game might not play like he did last night. I don't know how many games the Canadiens are going to win against the Leafs by scoring only 2 goals. And their power play has to be better. And to me, Cole Caufield's the quick fix on the power play. And stop passing the puck to Shea Weber on the point every single time on the power play. It doesn't work anymore. It might work 1 out of 100 times, but it doesn't work, and they keep doing it and doing it and doing it. Find a way to get Caufield that sort of Ovechkin spot and feed the puck and let the kid shoot.
And you don't have to worry about the physical play of Caufield. The guy's smart enough to know and slippery enough that doesn't have to be necessarily part of his game. And you know, you watch this kid play, he knows where to go and how to position himself to get pucks through, and they're badly in need of a guy like that. And we talk about the power play. He could be a very, very big part of turning that power play around, which is going to have to get better if they're going to continue to find ways to win.
I was watching Austin Matthews in game one, and it's remarkable how he's able to find that open ice in the offensive zone. I mean, obviously the Habs know he's their goal scorer, the NHL's leading goal scorer, but he's still able to find those open spots in the ice to get his shot away. And that's what that's Cole Caufield's biggest strength, is finding that open ice, sneaking in here and there, finding the open ice and getting that shot away. And it's, if they don't dress him for game 2 and the power play is as bad as it was in game 1, unless Carey Price stands on his head again, it's going to be difficult to win. And the Leafs are going to come out fired up. I mean, I can't imagine the Leafs scoring only 1 goal again in the next game. They were obviously rattled when Tavares got taken off the ice on the stretcher, understandably so. But I think they're going to be, we talked about the Canadiens getting off to a fast start in game 1. I think the Leafs are going to be all over the Habs to start game 2, and they better be ready for it.
Yeah, I'd be stunned if the Canadiens don't use Cole Caufield at any point in this series, because he scores goals. Yes, there's all the other stuff that he might need to get better at or whatever, but he can score goals. He proved that in the regular season, and giving the team another look on the power play from the Ovechkin spot, that'd be pretty good for them going forward. So I'd be stunned if he doesn't get a look in game 2, but I'd be more stunned if he doesn't get a look at all in the series.
Well, you can study all the analytics in the world. The number 1 analytic, which has always been the same since hockey was invented, the team that scores the most goals wins.
Yes. Remember the line about Brett Hall? He doesn't do anything but score goals.
You got to score goals.
And
And as John said, I mean, Caufield works his butt off out there. You watch him back checking, and you watch him. He's quicker. You look quick in university hockey when I watch them, but it's a level slower, obviously. But he looks quick in the NHL too. He's got quick feet. He moves around.
he's going to be quick everywhere. So
Yeah, just have to see if he'll end up in the lineup at some point in this series. And I think that's going to do it for this week's edition of Hockey Inside Out with special guest Jack Todd. He just fit in seamlessly with everyone this week. Thanks so much again for doing this, buddy. If you have a question for any of us on the panel that you'd like to see us answer in a future episode, please write it down in the comment section below. And also visit hockeyinsideout.com to check out our full episodes and any other fun stuff that we've got up there as well.